Hello guys, and welcome back to Strategic Command World War II, World at War with our Allied playthrough. In the last episode, we landed in Japan with China. We've taken Nagasaki and Hiroshima about as exact as you can get in this game. 3 years before the bombs would be dropped on them, and one turn away from being 3 years after the start of World War II and the start of this game. So that's incredible. I was just predicting not too long ago that Japan would be the holdout, just like in real life, due to their navy. But I didn't realize just how much I had crushed their land force, because we just landed on here unopposed. We've cut all their convoy income. Can we take a look at that? Convoy income to, holy shit, look at this. Convoy income to Japan. Well, it hasn't shown cut off yet, but it's going to be cut off at this rate. Their national morale only down to 42%. Well, I guess we did just land this turn. It wouldn't reflect yet. But these colors, as I loaded back into the game, already reflect, which is interesting. I noticed we also didn't really do anything with the 23rd Army. I just kind of had it in a blocking formation for the HQ. However, we're not entrenched. We just got here. We can take a step forward and go look at what's ahead. So we can see already an HQ, a bad HQ, another HQ, and a garrison. And that's kind of blocking this area off. We're going to go ahead and just attack the HQ. Dealing 2 damage, taking 1 damage, that's fine. Hurting an HQ is good. Doing anything we can to push here is fantastic, because this is going to be a very narrow front. This is like 1 hex that filters everything from the south. So that's a little bit brutal. Now, we do have plans to get another amphibious invasion set up in the north, and then we might be able to transport some more dudes up there. However, if it is all the way up here at Sapporo and Hakodate, we'd have to go through a 1 hex line again. But if it comes down to that, then I will go for Niigata as well, and we will keep landing Chinese on this island until the Japanese embrace their new nationalistic overlords. With that being said, Brazil also joined the Allies, so that's fun. I don't think they're going to get to do very much, quite frankly, with how this is all going. With America, we have just recaptured Wake Island and secured Kwajalein and Roy Namur. Kwajalein was a national morale objective. However, it's not anymore. I noticed this. This is weird. Some locations, they'll start out national morale objectives, but once they get taken the first time, they're no longer able to have a national morale effect. Some of them are like one-time impairments. It's quite interesting, but the Japanese did receive that impairment. We somehow are still supplied like crazy. It's like when you land, it's weird. You retain a lot of the supply from the amphibious landing. We're going to upgrade the Special Forces, the Marine Divisions on Wake and on the Japanese islands here, with mobility and infantry weapons too, because I want to get them caught up to snuff with the rest of our other units over here. We have the Leary Destroyer that doesn't really need to stay over here anymore. I guess it could, just guarding the division. And we have more objectives we can go after in the Pacific. I am tempted to send the Americans here to try to like land by Tokyo and take it. But the only way that would actually work is if we could land directly on Tokyo, which we cannot due to these ports. We can only land next to it. And we can probably guess that they will not leave Tokyo undefended at any point. That seems like a logical assumption. So there's probably a little point in actually sending the Americans over there. Now, I don't know if China takes Tokyo, if they'll also end up taking everything else that's occupied by Japan, including the Philippines and etc., and DEI, if like all of this stuff is just going to go to China. If that is what happens, that would suck, because what's the fuck's China going to do after this? They can't operate through anybody's territory. The best they could do is get in transports and go up to like Greece or some other already open front and hope to God that we can land there. We could probably test it out beforehand and then try to push a massive Chinese front or some bullshit like that. But that's probably not going to happen. Realistically, what's really going to happen now is we're not going to need as much American intervention in the Pacific as I thought we were, because of how just well this is going for us up in Japan. One note is that down here in Port Moresby, moving MacArthur forward was a huge mistake. Huge. The supply just completely fell off up here. We'll just go ahead and get these attacks out of the way. We'll attack the Special Forces. Dealing 1 damage, taking 2. That was the opposite of what it said would happen. But, alright. Wonderful. Yeah, that's great. They're neck and neck at least. The supply that these guys have are actually really, really low. So even though we kind of impaired ourselves, they're equally impaired. So that works, I guess. We do have some movements that we started down here in the Pacific. We are going to send the 2nd Corps down to Pago Pago. National morale objective. Keep that safe. Over there. We could probably upgrade it. Well, we can't because it just landed. There was another one that I think already got... Oh yeah, it already got here. It's the 3rd Marine Division tanks. We'll go and maximize that out. Yeah, all the armies and stuff that I was getting on the West Coast, I'm realizing that we're just not really going to need them here. They're not going to be needed for island hopping. And China is probably just going to take care of all this by themselves. Maybe slower or faster with or without American help, but if we just sent like the Navy over there, which unfortunately we've lost the most important part of the Navy for doing that, then that would be enough. The land forces are not going to need to be committed to a drawn-out war going for the DEI or anything. I doubt Japan will stay alive with its national morale problems as is when it loses Tokyo. So, I know I just moved a bunch of things over here, but you can go back. Like, I know I just sent you over here, but go ahead. Go back. You're not going to be needed here, turns out. I will go ahead and upgrade the army down here. The 2nd Army, and also the 1st Army. We're going to give them infantry weapons and mobility. And we'll send them back east as well, soon. We have the S-42 sub here that can get moving westwards. We'll go ahead and naval cruise that out towards Hawaii. Yeah, we're in an interesting position. Because we now don't need any troops, any land troops from America to head out here. I can keep special forces island hopping just to really batter away at the Japanese. I could try to send special forces or something to Tokyo. There's no point landing in HQ. We need a supply point. The Chinese can handle that on themselves. No matter who gets everything else occupied by the Japanese is a little irrelevant so long as I start focusing my resources in the east. Now, there is nowhere to send the Americans technically. Unless we make a lot of progress over by Brest, we would have to... Well, we could. That's the funniest part. We could just start landing Americans at the Gibraltar. Actually, it would be really, really easy to do. It would be hilariously easy to do, in fact. If we landed Americans at the Gibraltar, we just have to move the garrison off, and there's nothing else keeping an eye on the Gibraltar. And just spill American troops in. They wouldn't even need to go anywhere. We could try doing that for someone else. For example, the Indians, although sailing through the Mediterranean would be a little bit difficult. But the Indians, you realize I just set them up. I was trying to set them up this whole time to start going after Japan because I realized they weren't going to be needed in Europe in the long run because with everything I had going, Germany and Italy were supposed to fall first. Well, now the Indians are just like, what do I do with them now? I've been back and forth like, oh, I'm going to send them there, but then we like win. So, very interesting. I guess I could send the Indians to Spain. The way I could do it is by embarking everyone over here and embarking everyone and just going around Africa to avoid the Italian Navy. That would be a way to do it. And then if the Americans do show up, when they do show up, we get the Navy out of the Pacific and then we send the Navy over and invade Italy from the bottom. Because we would have long-range transports, whereas the Indians really don't have transports like that. So that would be something. We also ideally need to get the Mexicans heading up as well. However, the Mexicans need to be reinforced and upgraded. They're only corps, however, so there's no rush to send them. Armies can be sent. We have an HQ. We have 2 armies. And I'll probably move the Marine Division tanks, because it's not actually a Marine, it's tanks. This would be great in Europe. The Special Forces can stay with the Pacific until the Pacific is done. HQ, 2 armies, 3 armies, actually. 3 armies. And then tanks, which I might have already said. I'm just looking at my options here. That is a sizable force. That could do something all by itself in long-range transports. Yeah, that could go for Italy, especially with support from the American Navy. Could also go land in Libya and then attack Vichy, Tunisia, and Algeria. By the time they got out here, we would see if the AI would do Case Anton, and if they did, we could do that, although what would the purpose of that really be? If we're making the long distance trip anyway, we might as well just go right for Italy. If I bring a naval force to keep the American troops guarded, then we're good. This is going to take a while to set up. Unless I'm operating, which right now I'm not. Unless I'm operating, it will take a few turns to actually, one turn to get over to Beaver and etc. And then to get over, well, that's just for some of them. It'll take the others over there a little while to drive up, get ready to sail out, and etc. All the while, I'm probably going to be wanting to spend my points on other things as well, not just those things. The Americans have some naval work to do. We're going to reinforce the Aylwin destroyer. We're going to upgrade the Tuscaloosa heavy cruiser. I wanted to buy a carrier this turn, because I noticed they take 18 fucking turns on a delay, so 19 turns. That's like over a year and a half. Roughly a year and a half. So I wanted to get one making just in case we'd need it. I don't know if we will need it at this point. But I can't do the other things I want to do this turn while also building one of those, so we just won't. We will go ahead and upgrade the Wainwright destroyer. Sad face Wainwright. I'll try to save you next time. I'll try to save you next time. In December is when we will receive the new carrier. So that one will be good. We'll have 2 carriers. I'm thinking of how to best use these units. And judging by how the Pacific is going, I don't think we even need to hunt the enemy carriers. I don't think we need to do very much at all. I don't want to throw my land forces away or my naval forces away in the Sea of Japan or anything while the Chinese are able to just throw bodies at Japan for me. The special forces will continue operating, but they don't need a whole lot to protect them, to be honest. I can start diverting a lot of these forces away. The long-range transports just need to be careful, and they just need to go for strategic targets. So what I don't need over here primarily is going to be things like the battleships and the carrier. The destroyers for escorts would be good. This destroyer actually needs some upgrades, so we'll send that towards Pearl to get its upgrade. But the rest of the ships don't really need to be here. Some light cruisers and stuff, maybe the heavy cruisers could be good. But if we need escorts, we can just rely on the Brits to send their destroyers, because they're not really doing anything. Hell, we could use the British fleet to escort the Americans altogether. We really don't even need to send an American fleet over there. We could just use the British fleet. However, right now they are heading up north to a possible engagement with the Germans. To that effect, let's start looking for them. Let's just drive right north with the Cumberland heavy cruiser. Well, we know they're not over here. I don't know if they went east or west and how far they could have gotten one way or another. We'll have to look a little further out. So they can see about one in every direction. Oh, enemy contact. Okay, we have an idea of where they went now because we found the battle cruiser. Now, let's set the glorious carrier to bombers. And what is your range on this glorious carrier? It is 6. So we don't need to get actually that close, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yeah, like right here should be enough. We'll go ahead and bomb the battlecruiser. And there you go. German battlecruiser dead. Took 1 damage on the bombers. Let's move forward a little bit. So if the battlecruiser got that far, the battleship could have gotten pretty far as well. And we don't have a lot of ways to go looking. We'll send the triumphant light cruiser over here towards Norway's ports. Head north a little bit. And then head west to check here. Head that way to check there. Alright. Not finding it there. We'll send the Sheffield light cruiser out to the northeast is what we'll do. Assuming it could have come somewhere out here. Not seeing it. The battleship was a little to the right of it, so it could just be a little further north or something. We can send the Hood battlecruiser looking. There's also the Canadian destroyers out here. And technically speaking, well, no, I don't know. I'll ignore that. We could also just scan out here with this maritime bomber. We might spot it if we just do this. No? What if we do this? If it's not out here in the Norwegian Sea, it could just be out northwest. And if it is northwest, there's really no finding it. We'll send the Columbia destroyer out to look for this battleship. And we'll send it in directions where it could have fled to. It doesn't look like it fled this direction. If it did, it's hiding in one of these 2 patches And it's very, very lucky. But I'm not seeing it. I don't want to send, like, battleships or anything out to look for it, is one thing of note. Oh, wait. Well, we found a submarine. Okay. Well, how far north do I have to go to hit it? Alright, this will work. Submarine dives from attack. Alright, that's fine. Well, that wasn't what I was looking for, but it's something. We will set the next one, the Ark Royal Carrier, into bomber mode. And then we'll get that headed up. Go ahead and bomb it. Dives from attack. Bomb again. Dealt 1 damage. No damage taken. Yeah, we'll probably just be doing this a little bit. I could use these carriers, send them back, and have them assist the Americans instead of using the American fleet. I'm really thinking about it right now. I'm not sure. I want to see how this naval engagement up here goes. We don't need to be going as balls to the fucking walls as we are right now. This is just a little excessive. This poor submarine. This lucky-ass submarine. Jesus Christ. It's dodging a whole lot of bombing. Jeez. Alright, let's upgrade the carrier that's in port with advanced fighters too. Yeah, I'm really not sure how to handle this topic. I could leave the American fleet over here until I know it's safe to start actually sending them away. Rely on the British fleet, but the British fleet would have to be ready at the convenient time, which means it would have to pull off from here a little bit. I don't expect what I'm doing up here to last particularly long, to be fair. This is just a little bit of an excursion that I don't think is necessarily actually going to last that long. We'd have time to prepare and get some things ready by the time the Americans were coming over here, and then the Americans could be assisted in landing. Without bringing any of their own fleet at all, we could just send the whole Atlantic fleet basically over there to protect them. Destroyers to lead the way. We know that the Italian fleet's still here, though, is going to be one thing of concern to me. I believe there is the possibility to operate, however. For example, the tactical bombers here, if we look over by, like, Libya, the range might not be the best, so that could be a reason why we might want the Americans to go for North Africa first, so that they can just bomb the shit out of the Italian Navy. Then we wouldn't even have to really go as far. We could just land over here in Rabat. And then we wouldn't even need to worry about the Italian Navy. It wouldn't take much of an escort at all. Just invade Algeria, land at Rabat, and then go up through Spanish Tangier, east to Algiers, take Tunis while we're here, operate some air forces over here to deal with the Italian Navy, and then go from there in the invasion. Incidentally, doing Operation Torch, probably not too long after the historical time for Operation Torch, when I really didn't intend to do it this way. But that could be a way to do it. That could be a safer way to do it. That doesn't put me on any strict timetables. Oh yeah, we could do it like that. It also reduces the naval element that I will need to actually commit to the Atlantic, which helps me out. We're gonna move the North Carolina battleship west. In that case, we will go ahead and move the Massachusetts battleship up ahead. The Lexington carrier, oh my god. Oh, I can, wait, what the fuck? I can double click to turn on naval cruise? I never knew that. We're gonna send the Lexington carrier forward just a touch. We have the Chicago heavy cruiser ready. We will just go ahead and naval cruise that. Where will we naval cruise that? You know what? Battleship, go surround the carrier. Chicago heavy cruiser will go, let's say, in front of some of these battleships as a little bit of a screen. And then we can squeeze something else in here. Let's go with the Texas battleship. She's been waiting for a while. Okay, I think I got the idea then. We'll shift our primary land forces, which were only ever going to participate in liberating the DEI and going for mainland Japan. The special forces were going to be the island hoppers, and then the armies and stuff were going to be for that stuff. But we're not going to need them, so we'll get them ready. In no rush, mind you, in no rush. I do notice that my TAC bombers are undersupplied because they're not in an HQ and they're not on a town, so I'm going to swap them out. Have the fighters stay in the spot that will get undersupplied so I can use these for other things. Oh, we can actually strike right now. Huh. I could strike at Suva. I don't know if there's anything there. Oh, there is! Dealt 1 damage, took 1 damage. That's unfortunate because we can't really repair it right here. I probably should have waited. Supply might have helped us out more. Okay, cool. So there's actually special forces there. Oh, that's a hell of a way to recon. Interesting. Well, good to know. I guess the attack bombers can just go mess around over there for the time being. Operating with H strength isn't the worst thing in the world. That's the most they'll be able to get down here due to the lack of an HQ. We're not ever going to need to send an HQ down here due to what's happening with the Japanese. I'm getting ready for the idea that the carriers are going to start bum rushing at northeast. So I'm going to have the Nautilus sub going in that direction in silent mode to hopefully be able to intercept as they do that, if it's needed, and maybe we could score some hits on a carrier or something like that. That would be nice, wouldn't it? I'll take the Leary Destroyer, and we'll move it up to this formation as well. We'll just put it right in the front here, Leary Destroyer. Might as well have a destroyer in this big naval, whatever this is. Let's see, I did intend to get the Annapolis Destroyer heading up northeast as well to help protect these carriers. We can go ahead and start cycling a little bit southeast into a little bit of a formation here. We can send that up. Go ahead and naval cruise that up in front of this carrier. And then the battleships don't really need to head out. I wouldn't be surprised if the submarine tried going for one of the carriers, but the carriers have very good ASW capability. That'd have to be a very advanced sub, which I don't think it was, to really hurt them very much. But I could send more out here just in case, since I know there's a sub in the area. I was only expecting to find battleships. And we'll probably get these guys to safety sooner rather than later, to be honest. I'll go ahead and naval cruise this other one, the Lancaster, up. I was going to keep them on defensive patrols, but this did not really end up going the way I expected it to go. So that's whatever. We'll also naval cruise this one northeast forever it's worth. We'll get it going. We can move the Suffolk Heavy Cruiser out of port, send the first tanks forward to Brest. We'll have to move the Lord Gort HQ, which, quite frankly, could do with being replaced by a better commander since we're going on the offensive here a little bit. Swap out the HQ with the Lord Gort, or with the tanks. We cannot sack or place due to how much this is moved right now, unfortunately. Good news is, German 8th Army is fucked. We'll go ahead and attack the Rupert Special Forces, dealing 5 damage, taking none. And go finish them off with the 1st British Corps. Hell yeah. Alright. And now we will reinforce the Canadians here. The supply should flow much better now that we have this secured from the HQ. Although, again, we might need a better person for that. Meaning we've killed an entire army over here in Brest and actually made Brest an offensive front in a way. We still know of a sub being here for what that's worth. Since everything here went well, we'll go and just send the Javelin Destroyer further south along the line here to kind of take up a bit of a position again. We'll definitely want to keep this secure if we plan on having the Americans go this way and using their air power to dominate the Mediterranean instead of bringing their navy. Because just in case, I would like to keep that in the Pacific. We will take the Salmon sub and send that up to Rosyth, where it can go ahead and get some repairs in next turn. We can upgrade a lot of these ships that are sitting around. The King George battleship has its upgrades. We'll take that out of the port. Renowned Battlecruiser needs its ASW. We'll give that. We have a lot of MPP suspenders in the UK, thanks to the Americans. Valiant Battleship is upgraded. Nelson Battleship is upgraded. Hood Battlecruiser is upgraded, so we can go and move that. I guess that's working as a screen right now, whatever that's worth. I'll send the 2 battleships up to Scapa Flow for the time being, just in case we do see the German battleship coming through here. Sinking that would be absolutely fantastic. We'll go ahead and upgrade the Brits that are in Britain. The fighters and the tactical bombers with whatever upgrades they can get. The fighters having more upgrades that they can get. Long range for the strategic bombers as well. These are all very expensive upgrades, some of which I've been putting off for a while. We'll go and resume the blockade of Bordeaux, see if we can lure out another Spanish ship that way, maybe. We'll go ahead and move these heavy cruisers to blocking off St. George's Channel for the time being, since we don't really need to block off Brest for whatever reason. In India, we can go ahead and upgrade the paratroopers with AA defense and some better infantry weapons, since I guess they were ordered when we didn't have any of this, or we just didn't bother giving them these upgrades. We can get all the upgrades for the 77th Special Forces for India. Very expensive to be giving them mobility, however, but I don't see too much harm in it. We can get mobility on a lot of their units. Oh, did I just not give them mobility? I just didn't give them mobility. Okay, that's fun. whatever. Let's go ahead and upgrade the Gurkha Special Forces. We'll give them mobility. And we'll upgrade the heavy artillery. We cannot afford to upgrade the heavy artillery. The BAI army is not even in supply to get upgrades. And that leaves us with 28 MPPs as India, not enough to do any more upgrades. I'm kind of in no rush to get them out. I want to make sure they get there as upgraded and stuff as they can with infantry weapons, anti-air mobility, so that they can actually maintain a Spanish front by themselves. Just like I'm in no rush to get the Americans into Europe either, because the European front is otherwise just going really, really well. So we can be slower and more methodical about this and just work on preparing these massive invasions to happen in, let's say, mid to late 1943, opening 2 more fronts against the Axis. One to conquer Vichy Africa, North Africa, and then go into Italy, and one to push through Spain with the Indians. The Indians can't just push all by themselves, mind you. And right now I am putting off getting research for them in order to get all these troops upgraded, which is more of a byproduct of my rushing getting units over research earlier in the game, which I thought I needed to do. I thought I did. I guess I just read the situation wrong. But that's what India's going to do. They're going to prepare all the units that they currently have for movement. One problem I'm sure we'll run into, however, is the fact that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think 7 units to transport, and we only can get, oh, I can't see it on the HQ right now. That's weird. I wonder why. Maybe because, oh, I don't know. What the fuck? Maybe it's because there's a cruiser here? Would that do it? Why can this not transport? I haven't moved it. It's at a port. I am confused. I should be able to transport from here. Hello? Well, okay. We have like 7 troops to transport, and we only have 4 transports to actually do this with. I'm so confused by this HQ. Maybe I have to send it, maybe I'll send it down here and see if it can do that from there next turn or something. I don't know. It's very confusing. Maybe the port just needs to be open. If I can't get the HQ over, then the Indians will probably just reinforce the Brits. I don't know why I wouldn't be able to get the HQ over there. I don't know if it's a matter of because there was something in the port here, but I've never had that slow me down before. For example, there's something in this port. Can you transport? Yes, you can. And there's nowhere to even pop you out, so that shouldn't make any difference at all. Just in case it does, I guess, we'll go and take the Leander light cruiser. We'll move it north rather than giving it its upgrades, just to see next turn, to see if this HQ can actually transport or not. If it can't transport, then we could say goodbye to that Spanish front with the Indians, because the Indians are going to need an HQ. And if they can't bring their own, the UK would need to give them one, if they can even use that. Or they just have to go where the UK already has one. I'm not sure, really. However, we have a situation, we have a plan. At this rate, Japan will die to China long before anyone else can make that big of a difference in the region. Whether China gets all of that or not is really none of my concern, even if they'll be useless afterwards. We have our plans to destroy Europe in the meantime, and we can hopefully put more effort into pushing that along, while China works on Japan with some commitment, not full commitment anymore, but still a good amount of commitment by America, probably most of a commitment, to be honest. And we'll have to see how Europe fares in the next episode, because we are out of time. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.